Ow! Greetings, YouTube. This is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. Okay, once again, I'm kind of pushing back the deadline for my next big thing that I was telling you about, because after this, I'm going to be working on my long overdue Terra Nova thing. But before that, a little bit of warning here. Some of you are probably going to hate me for doing this. Some of you are probably going to want to lose all respect for me when I do this. I don't care. Because these things need to be said. So I'm going to show you something, and this is probably going to make you, if the title of the video hasn't already done it, this is probably going to make you turn it off if you hadn't noticed the title of the video, and for some reason just clicked on it without really looking. Yes, today we are going to talk about Twilight. I actually like Twilight. There, I said it. I'm a guy, which is kind of odd. I never really met any guys that really in any way like it. I'm the only one who I know who likes Twilight. I like the movies, not as much as the books, but I like Twilight. And notice I didn't say I love it. I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, a twihard. You will never catch me wearing glitter. You will never catch me putting my hair in that stupid poof would that I could. You will never catch me going around without my shirt. I scared myself thinking of that. But I just wanted to tell you, first of all, why I like it. Above all things, it is an interesting and new take on the vampire subgenre. I like vampire stories. I like some vampire books. I was a big fan of Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles, which some people would sit there and say, Anne Rice, some people love Anne Rice, and some people think that she just kind of wussified vampires, by making them these effeminate whiners. But to those I say, they never read all the Vampire Chronicles books. Yeah, Louis was a whiny little moron. Lestat was awesome, if you've ever read any of the books. The movie was great. The Interview with the Vampire. I even liked Queen of the Damned, even though it was nothing like the book. But even Anne Rice liked the movie. Kind of interesting there. Back to Twilight. Like I said, it's an interesting take on the vampire subgenre. Okay, I was kind of surprised at how Stephanie Meyer went about describing vampires. That, yeah, they sparkle when daylight hits them. I thought that was interesting. It was silly, but it was interesting. The fact that they didn't have fangs, that kind of made me meh. But then when I learned the nature of the vampires, now they have hard skin and everything like that. They're basically like walking statues with razor-sharp teeth with razor-sharp edges and are diamond hard. Humans are squishy. You don't need fangs to sink your teeth into them. And so, and all the other things that she described. And I'm not going to go into every little detail that the books present. But that leads me to one of my first gripes when I look at people throwing hate on the Twilight books. Most people get that hate on against the movies. And most of these people, I think, never read the books. The books, I have to admit, they're overly romantic. But I'm a hopeless romantic myself, so I found that attractive, despite how unrealistic it was. Edward is a little too perfect. He is pretty much the perfect guy in many girls' ideals. Especially in Stephanie Meyer's. A man of principle. Unfailingly polite, caring, decent, selfless to a fault. Which unlike many other girls, I actually think that what he did in the second book, leaving Bella like that, was just unbelievably stupid. But I'm just trying to say is that Edward is, is pretty much comes up as every girl's dream guy, and so it's kind of easy to see why Bella kind of fell for him and so hard, even though the way it seems to come about in the book is a bit silly. Now, here's another issue. Bella. Yeah, there are things I don't like about her because even in the book, she doesn't have much of a personality. But in the book, you can understand, at least Stephanie Meyer, you can understand why Stephanie Meyer did that, because she was trying to make Bella into a girl who the reader could put her into shoes the reader could put herself. So that's how it's ended up turning out. In the movie, maybe it's just the fact that they didn't do a very good character, a very good actress to portray her character. The girl who plays her, I can't remember her name right off the cuff, but she's so expressionless, and to the point where it's not so much Bella as it's just getting annoying. And Robert Pattinson, he plays a decent Edward. He's a little too mopey, but there are a few parts in the book where he gets downright mopey and whiny, totally emo. The idea with the werewolves, well, I'm kind of thinking whether I should say this. Well, okay, warning for those of you who have not watched the movies yet, and I suggest you stop this right here and now. In the book, you think that the wolves are werewolves, but you later learn that they aren't. That's about as far as I'll go. The werewolves do exist, but they explain it a little bit better in the books. Now, the whole deal about this, and I don't want to go. I'm not trying to go into every little tiny detail of the books. I've heard a lot of hate about it. Now, fortunately, I'm not so, enraged over the amount of hate, against Twilight to just get all bent out of shape every time I see somebody speaking out against the movies. I actually can laugh at criticisms of Twilight because, yeah, it's true. They are not by any stretch of the imagination the best movies you'll ever see, and they are somewhat lacking, if you ask me. But I really think that people who are critical about the books are overly critical, because the story's trying to translate it from a book, and sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss, and for the most part, I think they did a pretty good job of translating the book into a movie. That it really is kind of that way, though there's a bit more story to be put in, and the characters, especially the other characters, the side characters of Edward's family and the wolves and the people around her, actually are given a bit more stage time, and they build up a little bit better. So there's one of the problems I also have. People sit there and hate on the movies so much, but they don't realize that there's a difference between the book and a movie. Anyone who's seen any of the Harry Potter books, they'll tell you, the Harry Potter books are great. The Harry Potter movies are great, but the books are so much better. The only time I ever saw them do an improvement on something in the Harry Potter movie that was improvement over the books, was that final battle with Harry and Voldemort. Many people thought it was anticlimactic, but this is not about Harry Potter. This for the Twilight books, I think they did a great job for the movies, in the respect that they translated fairly well. Though there's a lot, the reason why it seems to look like it's coming up short is because it is. There's a lot they didn't tell. Okay, it really has a lot of backstory and really interesting things they put in bit by bit by bit. Now we've gotten to the final movie, and everyone's talking about how utterly horrible it is and so much worse. I will admit, I have not seen it yet. I plan on seeing it. I liked the movies. And so there are a few things I'm hoping that they put in, and I know there's going to be a lot that they had to take out because the final book was very long and had a lot of plot twists and turns. And up to the point of Bella's birth, there was something about the books I didn't like, because I didn't like how she switched from the first part being about Bella and Stephanie Meyer, how she switched from the first part being about Bella, then they switched to Edward, Jacob's point of view, then back to Bella. It's just that the level of hate to me is completely unnecessary. It's mostly guys, for one thing, because this is more a book series that was aimed at girls to begin with. It's not intelligence insulting. It's just written a certain way for the reader to get into the character of Bella and see the world through her eyes without a lot of a personality interfering with that. Once you understand that, the books can be a little bit better. Though I have to admit, they are not the best books that I've read. I like them, yes. Love them, no. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to make a series of videos soon about various books that I have read and absolutely love and would definitely recommend to people. This I'm just doing because I just feel like ranting, and I just want to let the world know I like Twilight. I'm not ashamed. Okay, it's romantic fluff. That's all it is. You take it at that, you can find the movies a bit more enjoyable. Even some people get a kick out of them and laugh at them for all their faults. And hey, I don't have a problem with that. You don't like the movies, that's fine. But they treat the movies like something that they're not. One person seemed to think that this was some big commentary on abstinence and pro life and the pro life position. You know, in the abstinence thing, no, that's just utterly ridiculous because Edward is a person from another time. So in his time, abstinence was a much bigger thing and much more important thing than it is now. And I personally think that it's an unfortunate change that abstinence is not held in such high regard now. You know, that's the Christian in me talking. So I don't have a problem with what people think that the sort of message that movies or books seem to be conveying. They're really not, because that's just part of Edward's character. Bella had no problem with going all the way with Edward, but Edward said no. Now the whole deal about somebody said, well, this thing seems to be pushing the pro-life agenda down your throats with the whole thing about Bella not wanting to have the baby. Well, and I should have said spoilers before that. I might put something up there that warns about it. But when Bella chooses to have the baby, besides the fact that you know, in spite of the fact that it will kill her, you know, people think that's some sort of a pro-life agenda being crammed down people's throats. That seems to be even in the book it seemed a bit forced to me. But I don't think it was really trying to push a pro-life agenda. It really just was, to me, sort of a part of the book that could have been worked out a little bit better to try to make the plot go along for the baby Renesmee to be born. So, you know, that's just how I see it. When you're looking at the movies, you're looking at a very unique take on a literary work. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I can give you an example of a terrible adaptation of literary work, and that was Aragon. I am a huge fan of the Inheritance series. No matter what people think about them, and I've heard people hating on them, and I'm not even going to go into that. But the Aragon movie, it was good when it came to the visual effects, costuming, and all that. But when it came to the plot, near the end of the movie, fell flat on its face. Totally changed everything. Completely took things out. And that really upset me. With the Twilight books, to me, they're not altering a whole lot from the books. They just took some things out. But nothing terribly vital. And didn't change things, you know, to the point where I thought it was really bad. Now, I do have a friend who is a purist when it comes to these things, and she was up in arms about a few things. But me, I'm not a purist. You know, I'd love to end this thing with a big, people, stop the hate. But I'm not rant. I find myself unable to really rant because I get a kick out of watching the people who don't like Twilight and the people who make fun of it, because I can take it with a sense of humor. That's why I'm sitting, you know, that's why I'm hoping that people who watch this are going to understand that I'm not going to obsess. I wasn't obsessing and going, oh, I love these books. Why do you hate them so much? Leave Brittany alone. But no. I like the books, yes. Not the best books I've ever read, but they're good. The movies, not the best movies I've ever seen, but to me they're good. They tell a good story. I like vampire movies. Good take on the vampire genre. Characters, for some parts, a little bit overly idealistic, and some are a little too flat. But on the whole, it weaves a really good story and is very coherent. And so, if you're a fan of the books, hey, more power to you. Twihards, you scare me. people who don't like the movies or books, hey, that's your business. I just say, kind of go easy on the hate, because a lot of you who hate on the books and movies, most of you have not read the books. I'm not saying all of you, because I'm pretty sure there are gonna be some people commenting down there in the comment section saying, "Hey, I read the books and they suck too." Well, you know what can I say? Hey, you're entitled to your own opinion. It just kind of irritates me when I see that level of hate for a series, and that just kind of blows me away. You know, maybe it's just because it's something that I really enjoy. But that's my take on Twilight altogether. And like I said, that's also given me an idea to make a series of videos where I'm gonna showcase different literary works and talk about them. Seeing how I'm a big science fiction and fantasy person, so look to see a whole lot of that, especially if you like science fiction and fantasy from a fellow nerd. So that's my take on it. Please, I hope you haven't unsubscribed from me because of this. I don't think that my liking Twilight makes me less of a man. I don't think any guys who like Twilight, it makes them less of a man. You know. Now, I will say this though, before I even go. If you want a good book written by Stephanie Meyer, because don't let this sour you on her as an author, an author. Excuse me, I said author. Don't let it sour you on Stephanie Meyer as an author. You want an actual good book by Stephanie Meyer? Read The Host. That's a good book. And I might actually talk about that at a later time. But I will tell you this. The Host makes the Twilight books look god-awful. And for those of you who don't like Twilight already, makes it look even worse. So, that's my take on it, guys. And that's it. So you can all crawl out of your rocks now and crawl out from under the chairs and throw away your stones to stone me. So, until next time, guys. And my next thing ought to be the new Terra Nova review. Look for it shortly. So until then, guys, stay lucky and stay blessed. DecKrash, Brandon, signing out.